in probably 15 or 20 minutes. I want to thank Representative Dan Howe for being here, Senator Lowe for coming out. Kevin Raper was going to be here. He's on vacation, so he sends his best. And if we have any questions, he said he'd be glad to answer anything that we have. Thanks to all the road committee folks for being here, our commissioners. I want to thank Tom Collins, Shannon for being here representing the road department. We're going to go into some other of our business that was today, and when the operations manager with TDOT gets here, we'll go into the meeting. Like I said, I want to thank our county commissioners for being here today. I'm Chairperson Tim Mason for the road committee today, and I'm going to ask if we can approve the April 5th, 2023 minutes at this time. All ayes have it. Okay. We'll go into the new business part. Elkmont Circle, Eugene Ramsey requests clearing and gravel. Anywhere you want to.
Elkmont Circle is off of Bell Road, and actually there's an Elkmont Circle on the road list, but there's a section of it that was never taken in. It was never developed. I don't remember the footage on it. Do you remember what it is, Josh? No, this is Elkmont Circle. Okay. But anyway, I'm going to say it's 400 or 500 feet, somewhere in that neighborhood that was never developed. It's similar to what Brad Drive was. You know, it was a road. The only thing is, this is not on the road list. Probably should have been, but it's not. But it's an undeveloped road. Doesn't even have rock on it or anything. So if to take it in, it's going to have to be surveyed, cleared, gravelled at least, if not paved. So whatever y'all want to do on it, we'll do. Of course, you know, we don't have it in the budget to do this.
I'm sure you don't have an estimate on what you think it'll cost, right?
No, I sure
way.
don't.
Okay.
And it does have a couple of properties landlocked.
It's not on the road list now. This one's not.
That section is not.
Well, the only thing we can do is have them to bring it up to code and pass accept it as a road.
Right. But the thing is, I don't know who you go to ask them to bring it up to standards. I mean, is it the property owners? Do they have to split the cost? I don't know. I'm just asking.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a suggestion. We probably get the property owners together and go from that. We're going to have a starting point. So get the property owners and see who's going to pay for it and bring it up. And if they don't want to pay for it, I don't guess they'll get it done.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hey, Tom, on Elkmont Circle, is that one of our roads since it's got a name?
Yeah. Part of Elkmont Circle is.
So we're not responsible? You're saying give the cost to the owners?
Well, there's a portion. There was only so many feet of Elkmont Circle taken in to the road system.
Okay.
And there's a portion that was never taken in, and it was never developed.
So just the portion that's not ours, that's not developed, is what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Superintendent, is this something we want to maybe bring up at our next, get the parties involved, get the owners?
Y'all may wanna, ride out there and look at it at some point.
We can write it there. Okay. I'm going to take us into old business. Letter A, 213 Mantooth Road culvert update.
That's been fixed, that's been repaired.
That was, what was that lady's name, Tom? Miss Oldham? That wasn't Miss
I-
Oldham, was it?
I don't remember her name.
Yeah, no, it's the road separating the farm and her property. I think I'm the one that took that kind of
Yeah.
in, but anyway, appreciate
are.
that.
That's all right. Letter B, Brad Drive update survey.
We finally got a survey week before last. It's one of them that there's a portion of the road that is out of the right of way. And we are gonna have to, and I say we, the road department is gonna have to go in there and do some clearing and basically build a section of road within the right of way. But, you know, right at this time, I don't really have the manpower to do it. That's probably a job we're, gonna have to do after we stop mowing and paving, when we have the manpower to do it.
A fall project. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Where's this road located, Tom?
Brad Drive.
Yes, sir.
It's out off of Lower River Road, you know, where Dean Drive is. It's a
I just know it's not one of
little
mine.
subdivision out there on the lake. It's one of those, just like the road we were talking about, Elmont Circle. It was on the road list, but it was never developed. There was never a road there. And when I was, road superintendent previously, fella wanted to bring in a modular home, and there was no road there to access his property. So we went in there and we found a few property stakes, and we built a road by that, but it wasn't right. So part of the road is out of the right of way, so we're gonna have to correct that.
Gotcha. Moving on to letter C, update on paving at Taylor Elementary and Oak Grove Elementary.
All right, that's the one I said I didn't know anything about. I think it was striping rather than paving, right?
I think this was the young man that came to our meeting and was asking about striping and striping.
Okay, we, you know, we have that money for striping, but it's not available until July 1st. So sometime soon after the 1st of July, we'll begin striping some roads.
We'll try to get you out there with this young man, get a photo maybe with your 4th District
Be glad to.
commissioners too. Letter D, Chatta Valley paving update.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I appreciate that. We were out there looking at it, and I noticed a lot of cars still on the road, so we got plenty of property there if we can just make it useful, I guess. Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am.
We are started paving on it. We've got the first leveling course down. They'll begin tomorrow, paving the turnouts, the county road, where county roads approach the Chata Valley. They'll start paving that, and then they'll sit down and pull the main course. So hopefully we'll be done before July, we're hoping.
That's a project that's on, that's pretty good to be done by July. That's a long road through there.
So far, everything's went real well for us.
Great. Letter E, Sheffy Lane project update.
We're still in the engineering process, and I'm gonna let Josh explain where we're at in the engineering.
Thanks to Mayor Davis, we got the money extended. So we have hired LJA Engineering, and they have a permit to do surveying, which is going to happen June 26th. And then after that, we'll move forward with the engineering, and hopefully it'll be done in a couple months.
When he says they have a permit, we have to get a permit from the railroad to do about anything if our projects touch their right of way. So that when he says that we got a permit, that's from the railroad people. So
Moving on, Cow Lake Road and Old Cow Lake Road TDOT study update.
okay, John Collins, the traffic captain with the Sheriff's Department, did a accident data in study, and he has results on that. So I'm gonna let him explain that one. Okay.
I was able to go back through the 911 center and collect data from the CAD system. We're showing on Cow Lake Road at least 22 wrecks over the last 3 years. However, of those 22, 16 of them were at Spring Place and Cow Lake. The intersection of Cow Lake Lane and Cow Lake Road didn't appear to be a problem. Any questions?
Questions? Go ahead.
Do we know the severity of the six, I think it was six, that happened at, I think that's Cow Lake Lane and Cow Lake Road. Is that correct, Tom?
Yes, I was unable to find any exactly in that
Yeah.
location, that exact intersection.
Okay, thank you.
So of the of the other ones, like I said, the biggest problem appeared to be Spring Place and Cow Lake Road going on to State Road.
Thanks, Captain. Have any other questions on Cow Lake?
I guess we're going to leave it like it is. Suggestion.
That would be my recommendation.
We don't need a vote from here, do we?
I do, however, the bridge near that location, I think we do need to look further into doing something with that bridge, as narrow as it is, with all the school bus traffic that we have on it. I'm gonna check in to see if that's on the state, list of bridges that's eligible for state aid money to be spent on. And if it is, I'm gonna try to get it moved up. When they do, the state does their inspections, they don't go by the width. They go strictly by the integrity of the bridge. In other words, if it's still sound, there's no problem with it, as far as being weak in any way. That's what they go by. They don't go by how wide it is. But I think we might could get their attention, since it is near a school and does have all the traffic, school buses. So anyway, I'm gonna talk to TDOT about that.
Yeah, I think the major thing is when the school buses and morning traffic and afternoon traffic is so backed up and getting out on the Spring Place, and Spring Place is very, very busy at that time of morning and afternoon. Anyone else? Moving on to letter G, First Baptist Lane acceptance.
First Baptist Lane is a road that's 1,252 feet long. It was built somewhere in the neighborhood of 2009, 2010, somewhere. It was built, it was inspected by the road department as it was being built. And it was recommended, we found in the minutes where the road committee recommended it, that it be accepted into the road system. But somehow or another, it fell through the cracks and it never got accepted. So now, they're wanting to sell lots off of it, which they need it taken into the county road system. And this is a road, off of Urbane Road, almost across from the, farmer's market there. The only thing that it needs, when we've looked at it, it does need a street sign and stop sign. And that possibly could have been why that it was never taken in. Those signs may not have ever been put up. I don't know, the story, why it wasn't, but it wasn't. But my recommendation is it was built, to the subdivision standards, our road standards. My recommendation is that maybe we drop the ball. And I feel like that we need to put up the street signs, stop signs, and take it in.
Okay. Okay.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ledford. All those approve? Go ahead, Commissioner.
It is.
Any other questions? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those disapprove? Ayes have it.
Okay, and it was just brought up to me that they're also wanting to change the name of it from First Baptist Lane to Hardwick Way. So you might go ahead and then vote.
That'd have to come before the full commission, wouldn't it, for a name change on the road.
Yeah. Yeah, and another thing is, I think I need to get with the, representatives from First Baptist, because they were the ones that built the road. And, and it's an engineering company that is, asking for the change of name, and I think that request needs to come from whoever who developed the road, which would be First Baptist. So I'll get with them and make sure that we have their blessing on changing that,
Okay.
name.
You have something, sir? Yeah, you can come up.
Ben Berry, Berry Engineers. So I'm working with the Hardwick family. We're a Stewart family. Just really looking at estate planning, long-term vision, and we realized that this road never was taken into the city, and that's really where we're taking it to the county. My bad. And that's where this request is coming from. It's more of a cleanup item as we look into planning long-term. They had asked for the name change. So this started with an agreement with First Baptist, between First Baptist and the Stewart family, where First Baptist would build the road, have it dedicated to the county, but it is on the Stewart family property. And I do have an authorization letter from the Stewart family for this request, to request this on their behalf. So I'm here on behalf of the Stewart family, which is where the road is located.
Okay.
So can we make a motion then to go ahead and approve that, or do we need to wait?
Go ahead.
And that form's been filled out with those details, yes, and submitted to Ron and emailed to Tom. So we have it all filled out.
Commissioner Lefford, go ahead with your
Yeah,
motion.
Yeah, I'll just make a motion to approve the name change, or I guess the naming of the road.
Recommendation.
Recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All those approve? Say aye.
Uh,
Disapprove? Ayes have it. Thank you. I guess we'll grab this last one on the Walker Boulevard acceptance.
Walker Boulevard was a road built by the state, connecting Lauderdale Highway with, old Lower River Road. Or it might be Old Upper River Road, but I call it the Olin Road. It's the road that Olin Chemical is on. All right, this was built as an industrial access road by the state of Tennessee, and it was built when I was in here previously, but it was never taken in. There were some dips in the road that just weren't acceptable for it to be taken into the county system. And there also was some signs on the north end of it where it intersected with Olin Road that hadn't been put up. The signs have been put up, but the dips have never been repaired. So that road was never taken in. So I don't know hardly what to do on that. And it's the first time I've ever dealt with an industrial access road being built by the state. And when I remember when I left, I was talking to one of the state engineers. That's who I had worked with through the development of this road. And he kept telling me, yeah, I want to say it was Wright Brothers, but don't quote me on that built the road, but they were going to come back in and repair those dips, and they never did. So therefore, it was never taken in. And now people are calling the road department wanting those dips fixed. So I can't do it until it's a county road.
Go ahead, Commissioner Thompson.
Tom, I'd like to recommend we take that back to the state, and let them make a decision on that. We don't need to do anything on it till they do those repairs. And, got, some of the TDOT, Mr. Dan Howell here this morning. He might want to say something on that.
We'll dig into it and see what happened. I know the engineer that I was dealing with the state, he's since retired. He's not there anymore, so I can't go back and get information from him, but maybe I can find out TDOT who I do need to see.
Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
We've got a senator and a House representative here. Maybe could y'all speak on that a little bit? Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good to be with you folks today. And Tom is right. I drove that road last week, and I did not expect it, but I hit a dip that caused my head to hit the top of my cab of my truck. It's pretty bad, but we'll talk to TDOT. In fact, we have the operations manager with Region 2 TDOT here with us today to address another matter, but Adam is well aware of that situation now, so we'll talk about that.
Okay. Any other business before we double back to the new business? Lori, anything you know that we missed? Okay, we'll double back to the new business. I would like to say thanks to Dr. Cash for being here. Sheriff Steve Lawson's here. Captain John Collins, Sergeant Andy Smith, Lieutenant Mario Santos, and Traffic Carl Walls is all here. And our PIO, Paul Allen, don't want to forget him. He keeps his plate full. Yeah, I've already called State Representative Dan Howell, and thanks for Adam Lowe, Senator, being here too as well. We appreciate y'all so much. Just to go back just a little bit, why this meeting kind of even came to pass, I was sitting at the sheriff's office one morning early, and Sergeant Andy Smith come up to me, and he said, hey, I'm worried. And when someone comes up to me and says I'm worried, then that starts my mind going wide open. And he had worked a wreck up there that involved I believe it was a 17-year-old female, that 16-year-old at Walker Valley High School. And he said he was very troubled when he got to the wreck because she wasn't as bad as he thought, but he said he thought the worst when he arrived on the scene. So he asked me, he said, can you do anything about this? And I said, well, I'm chairman of the road committee, but I'm county. But I said, I sure do know a lot of state folks that probably would come to a meeting and sit down with us. And that's the only way I know to get things started in the right direction is get our state folks involved. And they have the money and they have the power to do this. And I thought, you know what, just bring all these smart folks here, and this is where we're at. And at this time, I'll turn it over to the traffic unit. I think they've got a little bit for us today to view. And this is the request traffic signal on Lauderdale Memorial Highway near Walker Valley High School.
when the school was built, there wasn't as much traffic. Now we're running, have 1,600 kids up there, have sports events, buses coming in, have Bockers, have Amazon, have GE, businesses going. I think the governor made a wonderful thing the other day when he said, hey, we're going to make top priority our the SRO. Just want to do this. I know y'all are going to look at this and go, 7 crashes. In reality, I'm thinking as a parent too, whose child drives 45 minutes to get to that school every day. What do you value the cost of life? Go to these crashes. By inches. A 16-year-old. What, Mario? Broken hip? Y'all have been stop signs. It's all about the low water, holding up. So we're gonna show you this video. These handouts. I'd like to talk to you guys. Everybody's here today. Thank y'all so much. Take a first step and for this safe every day. I promise you, don't want to tell their parents. Back from that. Can't do a red light. Sheriff has some great ideas. Work together better. Go backwards. Mario? Oh, you want to go ahead and do it?
Pretty good video as far as drone going up there and done a good job. I wanted to speak about what I've saw personally and responded to accidents there involving several kids who went to Walker Valley. Some had even been in my house, knew them personally. Some of the things there, and I think we can't go overboard and you have mixed reactions when you start talking about a red light. But what we need to do is, as I went to the intersection and said myself, I believe we slow those people down. And maybe even extend the 35-mile-an-hour speed zone for the school on up the hill. We need to clear the intersections all the way around, because when you pull out, especially looking up the hill to the east, I guess 60 yards maybe is visibility to see where you see the complete intersection. You're blocked until you see that. Doesn't make sense to me to beyond the school on the west side, going toward the interstate, slow it down to 45, but coming off the hill be 50. So I think we can look at all of that. I went down Menace Road, and Tom probably knows about this. Menace Road going toward Benton Pike, coming from 64. There's not speed humps, but there's some kind of notification that you hit to notify you, along with some warning lights, the intersection ahead. It got my attention when I hit it. I think we need to look at those kind of things, and the state's here, Dan's here. We've talked briefly, and the state, I'm not here to put any pressure on, but what I am here to do is this. If we can save one kid or one individual from getting run over there, we need to address it. And I know we can't get a red light there before school, but I think we need to rush it up and do what we can to slow it down, because I believe it would help slow people down, make people more aware. Look, Walker Valley Road is not meant for school traffic. It's not meant for all the traffic that it's carrying anyway. I'll be glad when they get the 4-lane all the way up. And then maybe they will start using that instead of using Walker Valley. But Walker Valley is a cut through. And listen, we have to slow people down. I'm not one just to get out and give tickets, because they cost a lot of money, but we've got to save lives. We got to look ahead, because that could be my kid, that could be your kid, my grandkid, or anybody else that's traveling those roads every day. So as the leader of the sheriff's office, and they're here, I would ask that we look ahead and we work with the state, work with everybody, the road department, the state. I think it needs to be clearly marked on both sides. If that's our job, I don't know. But to stop coming out of Walker Valley Road, make sure they stop, because I've seen a lot of rolling stops and not stopping. And when you get 16 and 17-year-olds, I was there myself, running up and down Keith Street, and I know what it's like, but we have to do our best as leaders to draw attention to that intersection to slow people down.
Dr. Cash?
First off, let me say I thank you all, including the Sheriff's Department and the state, for paying attention to when there's a danger for children. The one thing that we know for sure is getting that phone call that anybody's been in a wreck is horrific. But when you get the phone call that it's a student, it is unnerving. And so the phone call that I received about our 16-year-old girl, I took it and I was already shaking, thinking the worst. And what we do not want is any accidents, but we definitely don't want the worst. I know that the speed signs are there. I do think those need to be reduced all across that road because of the traffic. But also, you got to remember, school may be out hour-wise, but those kids are still on that campus. They have football practice, cheerleading. That campus is full probably until about 9 o'clock at night, and sometimes later. I think the more attention we can put to at least for now, slowing it down while we look at a traffic light would be beneficial for all. But I think it's the entire road, if you really want to know the truth, because when I drive it, the speed that's coming through there is if you put 35, they're most likely going to be doing 40 or 45. If you do 20, they're going to be doing 35. So I think we need to really pay attention. And I just talked to Representative Howell about the strips that actually cause the rumble. I'm not sure what those are called, but anything that can help this traffic slow down and put kids at more awareness. I would love to talk to the sheriff about doing some traffic awareness things at the high school itself for those drivers. those student drivers, but just appreciate any support that you guys can give and that TDOT can give us, because the last thing we want is another phone call. Thank you.
State Representative Dan Howell.
Thank you. Thanks for shining a spotlight on this intersection. A little background, if you recall, I believe it was about 6 years ago when we had a rash of accidents. Some of them were fatal at that intersection. And all that was there was a stoplight coming off of Lauderdale Highway. I'm sorry, coming off Walker Valley Road. So there was nothing there to warn drivers. Sight lines continue to be a problem. But reached out to TDOT. They were very helpful and continue to be very helpful. And that's why the operations manager is here today for Region 2. But as a result of that study, we met out there one day. There was a whole crew, and I don't know how many, but a bunch of folks. And that study resulted in a flashing light, the rumble strips, which you saw on the video, coming off of Lauderdale, and then an oversized stop sign. If you've driven that intersection lately, there is a huge oversized stop sign, maybe twice, 3 times as big as a regulation stop sign. So those measures did help. I think the traffic reports would show that the accidents have gone down. However, our situations have changed. Bradley County is growing. We have much more industry out there than we had before. And so we're seeing more accidents, as the one referenced earlier, that happened, a near fatal accident just a few weeks ago. So I appreciate TDOT being here today to listen, and I'm sure that Adam Castile, who is the engineer and operations manager for Region 2, would be glad to maybe address the group and answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Adam, for being here.
Adam Castile, Director of Operations for TDOT here in Region 2. First, apologize for my tardiness. That was completely on me. I had a misunderstanding of 2 conversations, and I merged them, and they shouldn't have been merged, so that was on me. Chairman Howell spoke about the history. Been dealing with this for at least 10 years. We've done several maintenance activities out there to try to clean the area up a little bit. 2015 was the full study he mentioned that implemented a lot of additional oversized signage and flashing beacon and speed bumps and or speed strips and stuff like that on the Walker Valley side. We're more than willing to continue to look at this and have discussion with anybody that wants to be involved in this and can help us work our way through it. There are a lot of, we have done a lot of studies beyond just that 2015 full study. We actually did another speed study and traffic count, turning movement, all those sorts of things to check the traffic signal option again. That was March of this year, so just recently, and they still don't warrant. We are obligated to follow the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices. That's a federal document that the state legislature has adopted into state law. That dictates the process that we go through to implement these features, because they can be a hazard within themselves. You got a road that's a high-speed road. People aren't expecting it. It's not something that driver behavior would kind of lead you to believe that there's a signal, and you come up on a stopped car and you're not expecting it. Additional accidents do occur frequently in those situations too. So we got to weigh the unintended consequences of those features as well. So that's kind of the general basis for how the traffic signal stuff plays out. I'm not the traffic engineer. We will absolutely have and will continue to get them involved with any sort of suggestions or discussions that get involved, but just kind of a high-level overview. Any sort of maintenance operations, the tree clearing, that sort of thing, fits within our right-of-way, absolutely, we can make those things happen. Again, this is not to say we shouldn't do that, but just to throw out the unintended consequences. Sometimes you have to have enough visibility to make the right decision, absolutely. Sometimes you got to be careful. Like, you might see some long roads where they'll put a little curve in it, and you wonder why they did that. That is to kind of subconsciously slow traffic. So those sort of driver behavior things that we can influence, we have to be aware of too. If it's clear, wide open, speeds will increase. People will make more risky decisions because they feel more comfortable with it. Again, that's not to say we shouldn't do those things because of that. We just need to consider those things when we have those discussions. that's kind of general overview of where we're at. We're more than willing to work. Somebody mentioned going to talk to had some internal discussion with that too. I think we absolutely do have some discussions with students just to kind of talk about the seriousness of this. Maybe if there are any sort of traffic flow changes that can happen within the school to funnel students in areas where it makes more sense or can be easier controlled, those sorts of things. All those things should be on the table. Willing to participate in any discussions that makes sense for us to participate in. Question?
Thank you. So our main area of concern is where the caution light is at. Is that correct? Is that, so what we could do if we decide to do the red light is just replace the caution lights with red light. Is that what we're wanting to do?
At this point, that's not warranted, and it has to meet one of the MUTCD
Okay.
warrants for us to put it up.
Okay.
The thinking behind that is, if there's not a specific case that meets one of these thresholds to warrant the signal, then we're probably going to create more problems than we solve.
So my question then is, what warranted the caution light?
It's all defined in the MUTCD. Again, I'm not the
Okay.
traffic engineer, so I'm not the expert there, but it's a different set of criteria.
Okay.
You're not stopping people on a high-speed lane
Right.
right there, so that's kind of the differentiation. Stopping somebody where they don't intend to stop absolutely creates more rear-end collisions.
Thank you.
So put my disclaimer here, I'm not the traffic engineer, so I'm speaking a little out of my realm here, but generally speaking, speed studies dictate speed limits. Geometry, obviously, if they can't navigate the curve at those speeds, then you can't do that, but driver behavior, on the whole, will kind of show those situations. So take this with a grain of salt, but we'll go out and monitor speeds for a period of time, and I think it's the 85th percentile speed is kind of where the speed limit should be, because you don't want to artificially lower the speed and then 5% of your cars are going 20 mile per hour less than everybody else who are driving by natural behavior. Again, unintended consequences. You're going to have that speed differential is going to cause issues. So typical speeds of people driven in the area factor in to what the speed limits are, and most of that's subconscious driver behavior. If the issue is beyond the 55 mile per hour speed limit, that's also the issue with the signal, right? If cars are stopped there more frequently. It has nothing to do with the cost of the signal. I agree. We need to continue to discuss this, and we have, and we've done a lot of studies, and they say what they say, and there's exceptions to rules that we can kind of talk through in certain situations. It would make sense, I think, for us to get the knowledgeable people in the room, because we have had some issues, not here, but in some other areas, to where we follow all the MUTCD criteria to determine something, and then we go have a discussion. We didn't look at the right time. It's a unique situation here. The locals were the ones that knew. We had to go back and restudy things, looking at different time frames. So those are discussions that can be had if we get the right group together who really knows what's going on in this intersection. We know what we know. You know what you know. Combine the information and see where we can go from there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll come back together on another meeting. Senator Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to take this opportunity to say that I know Representative Howell and I get a lot of traffic calls, and we have a lot of correspondence back and forth with TDOT. They've also been very, very accommodating anytime we've had those. Sometimes those calls come in like little drips. There clearly some people have an issue. This is one of those areas where it's not a little drip, it's persistent. And as we look for the study, what I want TDOT to consider is kind of what Mr. Collins said just now. And I have children at that school, just like these guys do, that drive that corridor. The real problem here, we can try to address human behavior, which is a big part of what happens with traffic, and that's really where TDOT tends to focus well. They do very well. We've seen a reduction. I mean, and we haven't had any fatalities at that intersection since they've increased the signage. But there's a physics problem here, right? And that physics problem is a sizable investment. As you're coming off Walker Valley Road, that incline is up, and therefore your ingress onto Lauderdale Memorial Highway is slowed, so it's a slower turnout than it would be at a normal intersection. Couple that with the speed coming off of the hill, you have a physics problem. And unless we actually look to address the physics, we can try to do the human behavior piece all we want. What's going to happen is human behavior always has the people who don't abide by human behavior. And I think that's what Adam was noting with the study around putting in a traffic light. It's not just the rear end collisions, but as long as that's an upgrade and people are coming off of Walker Valley Road, if they assume because of a green light that the rest of the world is stopping, but people are coming across that hill and not stopping, I mean, we know just exactly how many traffic accidents we have at red light intersections right now in Bradley County. So I think at some point it may be a
appropriate to look at the larger investment of what needs to happen with grade there. I don't know about blowing out a mountain, but if we can address some of the physics, not just the human behavior, that may be where we need to look. I agree with Chairman Howell. We need to look at that traffic study as it comes back through in August. And I often, because of his capacity as chairman, he knows that I defer a lot of these to him and just tell him, what do you need from me from the Senate side? I'll be glad to help you. But I do think we need to not just look at the human behavior piece when we do this. We're going to have to look at the actual physics of that particular location, because I just think it's this perfect storm. And I can appreciate all the wonderful federal codes that dictate a lot of those things, but we know that that's addressed to the rule, and this may be the exception to the rule in that spot. And we're in a position now to maybe we can help with a more sizable investment there. I don't know. I'll defer to the study, and I'll defer to Chairman Howell going forward. He'll tell me what he needs from me in the Senate level. But again, with kids at the school, been very sympathetic to what happens in that corridor. So I appreciate you guys looking at it and having a conversation. Thank you.
Anything from county commissioners? I appreciate all the county commissioners, not even on the road committee, but they showed up today too, and I appreciate it. Commissioner?
I'd just like to thank the Bradley County Sheriff's Department for the job you're doing. Anytime y'all see a problem out there, bring it to us. Bring it to us. First, bring it to you, Sheriff, and then bring it to us. Let us know. This is good. This is really, really good. What you're doing is good for our county, and we sure do appreciate you. T-Dot, thank you so much for coming, young man. We appreciate you, what you do, your knowledge, who you can get up there, get this thing fixed, four-way stop. Might need to happen before school starts, and then figure out the problem later. But just get something done. Thank y'all so much. Dan Howell, thank you, sir. Mr. Lowe, Adam, thank you for coming today. We appreciate y'all.
Chairman Cry.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate what we're doing today. In my previous life as a real estate appraiser, I traveled quite a bit. I think the traffic engineer might be familiar with Crossville going toward the Kentucky state line, Cross Plains and Highway 127. The similar situation that we have here, only there they had two major roads. I guess Walker Valley Road is not a major road, but they put a four-way stop sign. And if we can't get a traffic light, we should consider a four-way stop sign. And I don't personally, I've seen them in other places outside of this area, and it works pretty well. Everybody stops, and the sheriff's department, if they're handy, issue a citation to the ones that don't. I do ask if put that into your consideration. There'd be nothing wrong with a four-way stop sign up there. Thank you.
I want to thank Superintendent Collins. I think he met up with TDOT somewhere between there. I went up there Thursday or Friday, and it looked like TDOT had cut back some of the area on the hillside. Still a problem, but it did help to get some of the trees and stuff cut back. I want to thank too, State Representative Dan Howell's here and TDOT pass along Grady Patterson that works for TDOT. I do the TDOT litter grant for Bradley County, and Grady, he gets the big signs up, and we have our graduations at Walker Valley, and just does a fantastic job. And kudos to him, and maybe pass that on to his bosses too, because Grady does a great job in Bradley County to help all of us at the sheriff's office too, and we appreciate all y'all. Anybody have anything else? Come on, Superintendent.
I know there's probably going to be a study going on up there. Is that right? Has been. I know there was one once before, and most of it is driver error. I mean, let's put it out there and call it what it is. It's not a problem with people traveling Walker Valley Road not stopping. They stop. But they're late for school, they're late for work. They don't have the patience to wait until all the traffic has passed on Lauderdale. So as a quick fix, and it may not be the permanent fix, but could we get a commitment from TDOT to lower speed limit coming off of Lauderdale Highway toward Walker Valley School, lower that to 35 mile an hour? If so, we get a commitment. Well, I don't know. Worth use if they have no. All of you probably go to Charleston every once in a while. What do you do when you enter the city limits of Charleston? Oh, they have a reputation. Why don't we have those reputations? You ain't gonna have to write too many tickets. Not to me anyway. Write me one, I learn. But can we get a commitment from you to try to get that lowered as a quick fix for right now? But we need to do something, and I think, my opinion, there's two reasons why there is so many accidents up there. One is unexperienced drivers. They're young, they're late for school, they have no patience, and I'm not saying that's what caused any of the wrecks, but that's my thinking, my guess. I had a niece. Her mother and dad bought her a little sports car to drive to school, and she let it sit. She rode the bus, and they asked her, said, "When are you going to drive that car?" She said, "I'm not a good driver yet." And I wish a lot of our students had that attitude right now, to realize I'm not a good driver yet. People, I've seen so many, I haven't seen them personally, but there's been so many young kids killed up in the Charleston area. Frontage Road, we had two just real soon, one after the other. One at Sheffield Lane. These are all young kids. In my opinion, they're not all experienced in driving, but until we can get them educated, and I really do believe, and this goes back to Tennessee Department of Safety, I guess, I'm not sure that we're teaching the right things when we're teaching our kids to get their license, to study, to learn the rules of driving. I don't think there's hardly any kids out there that knows what a solid white line is, solid yellow line. They don't know these things. And I've been told that when you do a driver's test nowadays, that about 80% of the questions has to do with drugs. I mean, that's fine, but you need to teach them the laws of driving a little bit too. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth, and that's probably about what it's worth. Thank you.
Maybe have THP maybe put a word in for them too.
Yes, I just want to let the committee know that I appreciate you bringing this issue to the forefront, but with that as a backdrop, there are rules, regulations, guidelines, and laws that TDOT has to obey. And I appreciate, and I agree with you, Tom, that it would be great if we could lower that speed limit there, especially at the hill. But there are federal guidelines that TDOT has to obey. And if they don't obey them, it restricts how much money TDOT gets from the federal government, which indirectly impacts you on how many roads they can build or repair. So while we're going to look at this, it may take a few weeks, it may take a few months, I don't know. But I just want your expectations to be that it does take time to do the study, to look at the guidelines, to find out what they can do, and then they will be able to do it. But it will take some time. But thanks again for bringing this issue to the forefront.
Thanks so much for being here. Do we have anyone else wants to speak today before we adjourn? And again, I'd like to just tell everybody thanks for being here. Crystal, thanks for being here for the legal part of everything, as always. Lori, thank you. Adam Lewis, representing from the mayor's office. Appreciate him being here too. Nothing